Okay. On our day of boot camp, we're going to be focused on reporting categories. So we're going to be looking at domain and range of something that's linear, key features, and solving, and a little bit of direct variation in the types of slope. Right, looking at this first problem, it says a swimming pool. As I read, you should be doing your cubes. A swimming pool can be rented for $110 per hour. The pool can be rented for either 1 hour or 2 hours. The cost in dollars to rent the pool is a function of the number of hours the pool is rented. What are the domain and range of the function for this situation? So I'm circling my numbers, 1 hour in my units. Underlining or boxing, let me underline the question. What are the domain and range of the function for this situation? Some key terms: per hour, cost in dollars, number of hours. All right, so looking at that, I know I'm dealing with something that's linear. It's a function. Well, it could be a function. It is a function. So I need to first determine if it's going to be discrete or continuous. So I boxed a key term, number of hours. That's a keyword that lets me know if something's discrete or continuous. So know if something says number of hours, number of days, number of weeks, is it going to be discrete or continuous? All right, let's look at our notes. So anytime I see something when it comes to word problems, that keyword says discrete is the answer is a number of. That keyword I am looking for, number of, amount of. And when it's discrete, you write it as a list of numbers. So going back to this question, this lets me know that it is discrete. We just looked at our notes. It shows me that anything discrete shows up as a list of numbers, like as a list. So I am looking for something in my answer choice that looks like this, a list of numbers. So which answer choices should you be able to delete? Okay, perfect. You should have deleted C and D. Eliminate that. So now we first need to look at our domain and range. First things first. I'm going to zoom in. What does our domain represent? What does our domain represent? Our X values. So that means our range must represent our Y values. Choose this color. Y values. Okay, so first things first, what is and also our independent variable. So what is the independent? It's two things that they're talking about. They're talking about hours. They're talking about hours and the cost of something. Hours and the cost of something. Which one would be our independent? Which one is independent? Or let's go backwards. What's dependent on something? What would be dependent on the other? Will it be the money or the hours? Which one is dependent on the other? So the money is dependent. So if the money is the dependent, that means the hours is the independent. Remember, your X values is your independent variable. Your Y values is your dependent variables. All right, so what are the only hours that the problem talked about? 1 and 2. Even if I don't know how much you get paid per hour, even though it tells you 110 per hour, I know that my domain is the hours. The only hours that it mentioned was 1 and 2. So I'm looking for where my domain is 1 and 2. So therefore, A is not the correct answer. The correct answer is B. Is B. Okay. All right, looking at this problem. It says a part of a linear function is shown on a grid. What is the range of the part of the linear function shown? Choose the correct answer from the drop-down menu to complete the sentence. The range is the set of all real numbers blank and blank. Okay, so first things first, we're going to actually do the whole thing without acting like we had a multiple choice answer. All right, so the question is saying, what is the range? So if they're asking for the range, what values are we looking for? The Y values. So if we're looking for the Y values, which directions do we read from? Left to right or down up? So I am focused on down up. That means I'm following my function from the lowest to the highest. I'm looking for the lowest value for my Y to the highest. All right, so I'm going to connect my line. 4 and 2. Negative 4 and 2. But I see two endpoints that look completely different. So I see a closed circle. I see a closed circle. When you're dealing with a closed circle, what inequality are you dealing with? Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or greater than. Right? When you're dealing with a closed circle, you are dealing with one of these inequalities. Here at the bottom, I have a open circle. Open circle. That means one of my equalities will be less than or greater than. All right, so we're going to write this as first an inequality, then we're going to worry about the words. I know my numbers goes there, inequality here. Because it's my range, I'm just going to put a Y circle for my inequality and well as my number. So remember, when you have it set up like this, you want the smallest to largest. No matter if it's the domain or the range. So the two numbers I have is -4 and 2. So which number would go first, the -4 or the 2? -4. So that means 2 is here. So now with this -4, I know that I am dealing with an open circle. An open circle. So that means I should be using one of these symbols. Now, is my Y value greater than -4, or are my Y values less than -4? So that's telling me is -4 the greatest number. So looking at here, I have -3. I'm going up. This is at -3. It looks like my Y values are going up. So that makes my Y value is greater than, that's why it's opening towards it, is greater than -4. It's greater than -4, but it is less than or equal to 2. The reason why it's less than or equal to, because remember, we have a closed circle. That means we're dealing with one of these. So the range is all real numbers let's do that. Greater than -4 and less than or equal to 2. Okay? Moving right along. Make sure you write this down. All right, next question. The graph shown W and P and line P. Which equation best represents the point slope form of the line that passes through the point W in parallel to line P. Whoa, this is a problem with a lot of spiciness to it. So it passes through point W and is parallel. What does the word parallel mean? Okay, parallel means same slope. So that means I first need to find the slope of line P. So go ahead and find the slope of line P. Line P. So this is this line right here. This is a lot of steps, but we're going to break it down into chunks. Line P. Go ahead and find the slope of line P. Well, I'm going to use the points to kind of help me. But we did this in 7th grade, so we should be very, very comfortable with this. Line P, my points are -5 and -2. -5, -2. And 5 and 6. So we have Y1, tilde, MX. Well, hopefully you guys beat me doing this because we've seen this so many times. My M is 0.8. What is that as a fraction, Ms. Martineau? Let's see. M, 5/4. I just hit that fraction mark on the left side and it gave it to me. So my M is 4/5. Okay. Now the question is asking me represent in point slope form. So this time that means you need to go ahead and look at your reference sheet. What is point slope form? What is that format? Y is minus Y1 is equal to MX minus X1. All right, so it's parallel. So the question is telling me I need to find the same equation, but it must pass now through W. Through W, which is at 1,5. So W is at 1,5 X, Y. Okay? Let's see which answers we can eliminate. Which answers, because my slope should be 4, 5, can I eliminate? If I look at them, I could eliminate all of them except for B. Because this is negative. This is the opposite. So this was if we were looking for parallel. This one is completely different. The correct answer is B. But we're going to go through this whole process because I want us to be able to write this in the form that we need to. So anytime they ask you for point slope, they gave you the slope, they gave you at least 1 point, you have everything you need. What would now be your M? Is going to be 4/5, or if you want to put it 0.8. My X1 here would now be 1, not 5, 1, and then here would be 5. Would be 5. Okay? The signs does not change. Now, if it was a negative, this would have been a positive. But we're going to keep it as -1. We're going to keep it as -1. Give you time to write this down. Okay, go ahead and read this problem and go ahead and solve it. It looks kind of very, very similar to a question that we saw in 7th grade. All right, the total cost Y for X tickets to a concert includes a flat fee for processing and costs per ticket. One customer purchased 4 tickets for a total cost of $160. I'm going to circle that number. And I should circle 4 tickets. Another customer purchased 8 tickets for a total cost of $300. First things first, we got 2 variables. We got an independent and we got a dependent. We have an X value and a Y value. What is our X values going to represent? And look at the word problem. Right, it's representing our tickets. And our Y value is representing the cost, how much money we're spending. So for 4 tickets, how much was it? How much was the total cost? $160. For 8 tickets, it was $300. The question is asking for which linear equation. So that keyword linear, when I plug this into Desmos, what formula am I going to be using to help me create my equation? You're absolutely right. I would be using Y1 mx 1 plus b. That's what I will be using to help me solve this problem. So let's go ahead and create our table. All right, so I already had the y tilde in there, so I'm just now going to change my points, my numbers. So this was 4, 160, 8, 300. All right, looking at that, going back to the problem, I could have also eliminated some answer choices because it said a flat fee. That means I do have a B. I definitely should have eliminated A and B. That's one of the answer choices I should have. But moving forward, my M was 35. My B was 20. So writing that as an equation, which one will be our answer? Correct answer is C. All right, I'm going to give you a chance to read and solve this problem on your own. Read and solve this problem on your own. All right, looking at my notes, we have seen this problem even before. This is not a completely different problem. Anytime we have a similar problem where they're asking us to solve for a variable, you're going to change your X to a different letter and change your equal sign to a tilde, and that just creates in Desmos. So let's go ahead and look at it. Lucky for this problem, they didn't have an X. The only thing that we really need to change is the equal sign to a squiggly line. So go ahead and do that and see now if you can solve this problem. All right, just in case you couldn't, let's do it together. I'm going to do 2/3. Make sure you do your parentheses on the side. M minus 9, close parentheses, tilde, 1/3, M minus 27, close parentheses. Right? If you got A, the answer is A. If you didn't, make note of these. These are easy questions in the readiness, so you're going to see these questions twice on your STAAR. These are questions that we saw last year and even this year. All right, this is another question that we saw last year and even this year. All right, so hopefully you have this question down already on some paper or something. Now I'm going to give you some notes to see maybe now with some notes can you solve this problem. All right, so this is direct variation. We seen this last year. So I'm going to put this up for a few minutes to see if you can solve this problem. All right, hopefully you were able to solve the problem without needing help, but we're going to do it together. The value of y varies directly with x. When the value of y is 4, the value of x is 4, the value of y is negative 12. What is the constant variation of y is a function of x, and what is the value of y when x equals negative 6? Move the correct answers to each box. Each answer may be used more than once. All right, so first thing first, I should have did my cubes. I should have been annotating y varies directly. So that lets me know that it's going to look something like this. My equation will look something like that anytime I see that. When the value of x is 4, the value of y is 12. What is the constant of variation? So that means they want me to find my k when y is a function of x. And then they want me, it's so many ways I could find the second part where it says, what is the value of y when x is negative 6? It's so many ways. I could do a table. I could do my 1 table. But let's find our k. So anytime you need to find your k, let me look at my notes because maybe Ms. Martineau forgot to. Y over x. That means my y value over x. So it would be negative 12 over 4. Let's go ahead and simplify that a little bit more. What would be our k value? Negative 12 over 4. Correct. It is negative 3. Negative 3. So that's our constant of variation, negative 3. So that means if we were to write this as an equation, it would now be y is equal to negative 3x. Y is equal to negative 3x. It's 2 ways we can do this. So let's finish this whole process. I got a table, I got an equation, and I want to know what it would be like if my x is negative 6. So they're trying to figure out when your x is negative 6. I could go to Desmos because I already have my equation. I could plug it in that way. I could go y is equal to negative 3x. Do a table. The question is asking me when x is negative 6. 18. When x is negative 6, my y is positive 18. That's one way. Another way is creating our 1 table. When we have our x, our y, my old was 4 and negative 12. My new is negative 6, but I don't know what my y is. This is when you cross multiply and then you divide by 4. You cross multiply and you divide by 4. No matter which way you use, you could even in Desmos, you could even plug it in just like this and do your tilde the same way. It is so many ways we can approach this problem. Four over 12 tilde negative 6 over, we don't know yet, v. Just to make sure that negative go. Oh, I forgot to, the 12 should be negative. Hey, you should get the same answer. Please don't make the same mistake Ms. Marino did. Make sure you're copying the correct answer. No matter which way we use, you're still going to get the same answer, 18. All right? Make sure you have this copied down. Make sure you have this copied down. All right? Go ahead and do this problem. Go ahead and do this problem. All right, it says, which equation best represents the slope-intercept form of the line that passes through point P and is parallel to line M? So this is very, very similar to the question we saw a few minutes ago. Point P is over here, and line M is here. So the first thing I need to do is go ahead and find the slope of line M. Keyword is parallel. What does parallel mean again? Same slope. So I need to figure out what is the slope that's going to be the same for my equation because I'm dealing with the same slope. So go ahead and find 2 points and find your slope. Zero, -3, and 2, 0. Y1 tilde mx 1 plus b. My slope is 1.5. Okay, let's put that as a fraction. 3/2. 3/2. So looking at my answers, if I know it's supposed to have the same slope, which answer choices can I eliminate? Which answer choices can I eliminate? Correct. I can eliminate B and I can eliminate D. I can eliminate D. Again, it is parallel. Now, the question is asking me for the equation. It does not mean it has to have the same y-intercept. That's not what it's asking me. It means it's parallel. That means if I was to draw my line, it would be like this. It would not be the same line. So I know that I have a point. I have a point at -2 and 2. That's my P point. And I know the slope. But I do not know my B value. I do not know my B value. Let's go ahead and find it. Well, I don't know both of my points, but I know one of them. One of my points is -2, +2, and my M actually equals 3/2. So I'm going to put 3/2. If I look, it actually gives me my B value. It actually gives me my B value. So going back to the question, my B value was 5. My B value was 5. So what is the correct answer? What is the correct answer? +5. So it should be C. It should be C. Okay? All right, last one. Go ahead and read this problem. And then as you look at this problem, I want you to look at some notes that you have, whether it's your brain dump or anything like that. So go ahead and read this problem and try to solve this problem. All right. A line is grafted on a coordinate grid. Which statement about the line is true? So let's look at some notes. Okay, I'm going to first look at what type of line I'm dealing with. Am I dealing with a horizontal line or a vertical line? Am I dealing with a horizontal line or a vertical line? Perfect. I am dealing with a vertical line. A vertical line. So going back to my notes, if it is a vertical line, will it be undefined or 0? Will it be undefined or 0? Will this slope be undefined, or 0. It would be undefined. Undefined. So, knowing that my slope is undefined, which answer choices can you guys eliminate? B and C. Because we know that it's undefined. Undefined. Now, this is where we honestly struggle at a little bit. And even Ms. Martineau. I may not remember the rule, but a way for me to remember is I am looking at which axis that my function is crossing through. Is it crossing through the x-axis or the y-axis? Is it crossing, where does this function cross, the x or the y-axis? It crosses through the x-axis. So because it crosses through the x-axis, I know that it will be x equals a number, wherever that number is. So now let's look at our answer choices to see which one will be our answer. Correct. The correct answer is A. All right. Go ahead and make sure you have copied all the notes.